If you're new here, I do this series where I turn the list into 5 different dinner recipes. Each recipe makes 4 servings of easy, delicious, healthy meals for just $55. Welcome back to my series where I'm turning a $55 grocery haul into a week of healthy dinners. This is the second recipe of the week. It's gonna be a lemony, creamy, really cozy and delicious soup recipe. If you're new here, I do this series where I turn the list into 5 different dinner recipes. Each recipe makes 4 servings of easy, delicious, healthy meals for just $55. This week's meals have been especially fun. I'm doing some recipes that transition us from summertime to back to school, fall time, and today's recipe is a really great example of that. If you're looking for a breakdown of this full $55 list and every ingredient that I got, it's in the video that I posted on Sunday. It's linked in the description, and also yesterday's recipe video is linked in the description. Like I said, we are making soup today, so let's quickly go through all of the ingredients, what the recipe is going to be, and how I'm kind of envisioning it coming to life. So today we are making a pesto, lemon, and white bean soup. And these are all the ingredients that we're gonna use for the soup. We're gonna be finishing off the broth that we used yesterday, and we're also gonna be finishing off the remainder of coconut milk. I always use up all of the ingredients that we bought, so if we used half of something, we're gonna be using it in another recipe. So just take note of that if you're following along. If something is left over, there is a reason for it, and we're going to use it. In the soup, we're gonna have a pesto, of course. I'm gonna make the pesto, and it's gonna be a simple nut-free pesto. Obviously, basil is gonna be the key component of that. We're gonna use a little bit of lemon, a little bit of garlic. I'm gonna use our nutritional yeast for that cheesy flavor. And I'm gonna put a little bit of kale in the pesto as well to make it a kale pesto. And then olive oil, salt, and pepper. For the protein for the soup, it's gonna be 2 cans of the white beans. I got Great Northern beans. So you can use this type of bean. This is what they have at Trader Joe's where I shop. You can use navy beans, you can use cannellini beans, whatever you can find. It's gonna taste very similar. We're also gonna be using up the rest of the shallot from yesterday in today's soup, a few more cloves of the garlic, and then we're also gonna be using a little bit more of our rice. So it is kind of a basic recipe. There's not a crazy amount of ingredients, especially once the pesto is done. And if you wanted to use your own pesto and not make it from scratch, especially if you're following this recipe not as part of the full grocery list, you can absolutely do that. One thing to note is we're not using all of the pesto today. We're gonna be using some of the pesto in another recipe this week. So read the recipe, use the amount that I specify, and then leave the rest aside. So first thing is to make the pesto, and there's not really any veggie prep that we need to do. I cut up the shallot yesterday, so that's already done. It's really just mincing the garlic cloves. So let's go and make the pesto. Okay, for the pesto, I wanted to make a nut-free pesto because I know some of you are nut-free. I honestly don't think we need it because we want a thinner pesto for the recipes that it's going into. It'll be a very simple pesto aside from adding in kale, we're taking out nuts, and instead of Parmesan cheese, to keep it dairy-free, we're using nutritional yeast. I measured out 1.5 cups of basil leaves from the basil that we got. Tightly pack your cups when you're measuring it. We want that very basil-y taste. So I'm gonna add this to my food processor. And you can do this in a blender too. Then I measured out shredded kale, so I'm gonna add that in. And then push down. Now I've got just 1 clove of garlic, and I wanna push that down kind of to the bottom so it blends up. And then I'm gonna do 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. I like nutritional yeast in general, but I especially like it in my pesto. I just think it gives it a really nice, like nutty flavor, especially when we're not using nuts. Now we're gonna do juice of half of the lemon that I just zested, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. So we're gonna first blend this up and then we're gonna stream in olive oil. If you're using a blender, blend first, then add your oil and blend again. Okay, so I have it on chop and I'm just gonna blend it up until there are no large pieces. Just gonna scrape the sides once. Blend it again. And now I'm just gonna measure out a 1/2 cup of olive oil. This is gonna make for a pesto that's relatively thin. So I'm gonna start blending and then I'm gonna stream in the oil as it blends. Smells amazing. Okay, I'm just scraping the sides again and I just wanna taste it, see if I need to add any more salt. Yum. I think I'll add a little bit of salt, pinch. I love how lemony it is. By the way, if you're looking for any of my kitchen tools, like my food processor, I always link everything that I use in the description. All right, looks good. Now that we have our pesto done, let's get started on the soup. Okay, soup time. So I've got a large pot here and I just turned the heat to medium. Now I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the pot. Okay, oil is shimmering. I'm gonna add in the chopped shallot. And this is 1/2 of a shallot. Just stir into the oil and I'm gonna let this saute just for a short time until the shallots are a little bit translucent. So the shallot has been cooking for just about 1, maybe 1.5 minutes, and it's looking a little bit translucent now. I'm adding in 3 minced garlic cloves, and you just don't want the garlic to burn, so you gotta be careful at this stage. Now I'm gonna do salt, black pepper, oregano, and a little bit of red pepper flakes. This is optional. So aromatic. I'm adding a little bit of nutritional yeast, started at 1 tablespoon. You can swap that for parm if you want, but maybe wait till we have the other ingredients in because you don't wanna get it too melty and crispy if you're doing parm. Okay, next up, I rinsed a cup of rice and I'm gonna add this right into toast. I always like to toast the rice before I add liquid. It just adds that flavor without you really needing to do anything extra. Now I'm gonna use the rest of our chicken broth from yesterday. It's about 2.5 cups left in here. We're gonna pour that in. Then we have the rest of our coconut milk, and this is 3/4 of a cup, half a can. And it's okay if there's hardened pieces in the coconut milk, those will just melt away. And then I'm gonna do water, starting with 2 cups, and I'm gonna see how it is once the rice is cooked. So give this a good stir. And now I'm gonna put the lid on. We're gonna bring this to a boil, reduce the heat a little bit, and let it cook for 10 minutes. My rice is just about fully cooked, looking good. And now I'm gonna add in the 2 cans of white beans, 3 cups of our shredded kale, and 1/3 cup fresh basil. Mix to combine. The rice did soak up a good amount of the liquid, so I'm gonna add a little more in. About 1.5 cups. I'm gonna put the lid on and cook to let the beans soften a little bit. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes. And stir, looking good. Let's add the pesto. This is a 1/4 cup. Juice of half a lemon, the lemon zest. I'm gonna need to salt this a little bit more too, since I added a decent amount of water, and just a lot of volume, so it needs a good amount, and I did reduce sodium broth. The salt is definitely what it needed. So good, I think we're ready to serve. I'm just gonna let it simmer on low for a couple of minutes, just while I prepare the dishes. Okay, the soup looks absolutely beautiful. I love how it's a little bit creamy, but it's also brothy, it's cozy, it has the rice, so just like the perfect combo. I'm gonna top it off with a little bit of leftover lemon zest that I had, and just a little pinch of red pepper flakes. If you wanted to make this a spicier soup, I think adding spicy sausage would be really good. Okay, it's time for the best part of the video, which is, of course, the taste test. Smells so good, delicious smelling, and let's see if it's delicious tasting. It is indeed delicious tasting. So bright, but still cozy, which is why I said it was kind of a good transitional recipe between summer and fall. Like, it's giving me the cozy taste that I'm kind of thinking about going into early fall, but it still has the basil and the lemon and those like bright summery flavors that we think of. So I love the combination of the two. I would say my biggest tips for this one are make sure you salt to taste, because we add in a lot of water, and unless you wanted to supplement that with like your own broth, you need to salt to make up for that. I ended up adding a decent amount of salt. I like the red pepper flakes addition if you like a little bit of spice. I think it really adds something there. It's a simple soup, but it's cozy, it's yummy, and not to mention it comes together really quickly. That was not a lot of cooking time. I would definitely call this a successful recipe number 2. I love that we used up so much stuff from yesterday's recipe. We used up the shallot, we used more of the garlic, we used more of the rice and more of the kale. We used up the rest of the coconut milk and the broth. Like, those 2 recipes really complemented each other in terms of reducing waste. So that always makes me really happy. It also made a really decent serving. Like, there's a lot of soup in here. So I'm excited to be able to freeze some of this, but I can't wait for you to try it. Please let me know if you do. Let me know if you're following the list. Let me know in the comments here on YouTube. And thank you for just following along and watching this series. It's my 2nd time doing it on YouTube, but it's my 10th time doing this grocery series overall. I used to just do it on Instagram and TikTok, where I'm still posting short form videos this week too. but I'm really enjoying the long form. I love being able to explain more. I love being able to talk through the recipes, what I'm thinking. So this has been so fun. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It just takes a second and it helps me know that you're really liking these videos. Join my newsletter on Substack. Everything that you need to join that is in the description, along with links to all of my social media. The recipe link for this soup is in the description, and to find the grocery list, yesterday's video, basically anything that you're looking for, go to the description and you can find it all there. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you back here tomorrow for recipe number 3, and I'm just so looking forward to it. Bye.